My girlfriend snapped. "If you're going to be jealous, just leave." I said, "Okay," swallowed it, and quietly moved out while she partied in Vegas with the gym crew. She refused to name. She thought I'd crawl back, until her own story exposed who was really 31M here. And I'm sitting in my apartment at midnight drinking a beer and trying to figure out if I just made the smartest decision of my life or completely destroyed a 2-year relationship over nothing. But honestly, after the past few months, I think I finally understand what people mean when they say someone can gaslight you into questioning your own sanity. Here's the situation. My girlfriend Alexis and I have been together for 2 years. She's 29, works as a social media manager for fitness influencers, and when things are good between us, they're really good. She's funny, ambitious, beautiful, the kind of person who lights up a room when she walks in. But lately, I've been feeling like I'm walking on eggshells around her, and I couldn't figure out why until this week. The issue started about 3 months ago when she began spending more time at this new gym. Not just working out, but hanging out after, going to group events, making friends. I was supportive. She'd been complaining about feeling isolated working from home, and I thought it was great that she was building a social life. But then I started noticing patterns that made me uncomfortable. She'd come home from the gym and spend the rest of the evening texting, giggling at her phone, taking calls in the other room. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give me these vague answers about the gym crew and everyone without mentioning specific names. The first red flag was when she started going out for drinks after workouts and not inviting me. When I mentioned it might be fun to meet her new friends, she said the group was really tight-knit and that bringing boyfriends would change the dynamic. Fair enough, I thought. Everyone needs friend time. But then she started staying out later, coming home at midnight on weeknights, sometimes not texting me back for hours. When I asked about it, she said I was being clingy and that she needed space to maintain her friendships. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago when she announced she was planning a trip to Vegas with the girls from the gym for a long weekend. When I asked who was going, she got defensive immediately. "Why do you need to know? It's just some people from the gym." "I'm not interrogating you. I'm just curious about who you're traveling with." This is exactly what I'm talking about, Cole. You're being controlling. That word hit me like a slap. Controlling. My mom raised me as a single parent after my dad walked out when I was 8, and she made sure I understood that controlling behavior was what drove him away, that being possessive or jealous made men toxic. I'd spent my entire adult life being careful not to be that guy, so I backed off. But something still felt wrong, and I couldn't shake it. Last weekend, I finally found out why. She left her laptop open while she was in the shower, and I saw a group chat notification pop up. Not intentionally snooping, but I could see enough to realize that this girls' trip included at least 2 guys from the gym, Trevor and Marcus, names I'd been hearing for months but was told were just friends. When she came out of the bathroom, I asked her directly, "Are Trevor and Marcus going on this Vegas trip?" Her face changed immediately. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking a direct question." "Yes, they're going." "So what?" "So you told me it was a girls' trip. You made it sound like it was you and a bunch of women." "I never said it was only women. You assumed that." I tried to explain that a mixed group trip to Vegas was different from what I'd understood we were discussing, that I would have appreciated transparency about who was going. That's when she completely lost it. "This is exactly why I can't tell you things. You turn everything into an interrogation. You make me feel guilty for having friends. I'm not trying to control your friendships. I just want honesty about honesty. Cole, you're being jealous and possessive. If you can't trust me to go on a trip with my friends, then maybe you should leave." There it was. The ultimatum. Leave if I was going to be jealous. And you know what? Something clicked in that moment. I'd been so afraid of being the controlling boyfriend that I'd let her reframe every reasonable concern as my personal failing. I'd been walking on eggshells, apologizing for having normal feelings, convincing myself that my discomfort was something I needed to work on rather than something worth addressing. "You're right," I said. "If you think my concerns about transparency are controlling behavior, then we probably aren't compatible." She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means enjoy your trip. I'll give you all the space you need." That was 3 days ago. She's been in Vegas since Thursday, and I've spent the weekend doing something I haven't done in months, thinking clearly. I realized that over the past few months, every conversation about my feelings had turned into a conversation about my character flaws. Every time I'd tried to communicate about something that bothered me, I'd ended up apologizing for bringing it up. She'd trained me to believe that having expectations or boundaries made me toxic. But here's what I finally understood. Asking your partner to be transparent about who they're traveling with isn't controlling. Feeling uncomfortable when your girlfriend spends more time texting gym buddies than talking to you isn't jealousy. Wanting to know basic details about your partner's social life isn't possessive. It's normal. And the fact that expressing normal relationship expectations had been reframed as character defects should have been a red flag months ago. So while she's in Vegas with Trevor and Marcus and whoever else, I'm packing. Not dramatically, not angrily, just methodically, because she told me to leave if I was going to be jealous, and I'm taking her advice. The weird thing is, I don't feel angry. I feel relieved, like I've been holding my breath for months and can finally exhale. Tomorrow, I'm moving my stuff to my buddy Danny's place while she's still out of town. I'll leave a note explaining that I took her suggestion about leaving and that I hope she figures out what she actually wants. Because what I want is someone who doesn't make me feel crazy for expecting basic respect and honesty. What I want is a partner, not someone who treats my feelings like inconvenient obstacles to their social life. Am I overreacting? Am I actually the controlling asshole she made me feel like? Or did I finally grow a backbone? Update 1. Alexis got back from Vegas yesterday afternoon. I'd spent the long weekend moving my stuff out of our apartment. Clothes, books, my tools, everything that mattered to me. Left the furniture since most of it was hers anyway, but made sure to clean up after myself and leave my keys on the kitchen counter with a note. The note was simple. You told me to leave if I was going to be jealous. You were right that we're not compatible. I hope you figure out what you want. Take care. Cole. I was expecting anger, maybe some relief that the controlling boyfriend was finally gone like she'd been implying she wanted. What I got instead was complete panic. My phone started blowing up around 3 p.m. First a text, "What the hell is this? Where are you?" Then calls. Voicemails that escalated from confused to frantic to angry and back to confused. "Cole, what are you doing? This is insane. Call me back. I don't understand what's happening. Why would you just disappear like this? You're being dramatic. Come home so we can talk about this like adults." When I didn't respond, she started texting mutual friends asking if they'd heard from me. Danny's girlfriend Emma got a message asking if she knew where I was, saying she was worried about my mental state. The whole thing felt surreal. For months, every conversation about my feelings had ended with her telling me I was too jealous, too clingy, too controlling. She'd made it clear that my concerns about transparency were character flaws I needed to work on. And now, suddenly, my absence was a crisis that required intervention. Danny was watching me read the messages and just shook his head. "Man, she's been training you to think your normal reactions were problems. Now that you're not fighting for the relationship anymore, she's realizing what she actually lost." That night, she showed up at Danny's apartment. I could hear her in the hallway talking to his neighbor, trying to figure out which unit was his. When she knocked, Danny answered the door. "I need to talk to Cole. He's not interested in talking right now." This is ridiculous. He's being completely unreasonable. I stayed in the guest room, but I could hear the whole conversation through the thin walls. She spent 20 minutes trying to convince Danny to make me come outside, alternating between saying I was having some kind of breakdown and that I was punishing her for having friends. The next morning, I woke up to a long text that completely blew my mind. "Cole, I don't understand why you're doing this. I never asked you to leave. I was just trying to have a conversation about boundaries, and you turned it into this dramatic exit. I know Vegas probably looked bad, but nothing happened. Trevor and Marcus are just friends, and I can't believe you'd throw away 2 years over a misunderstanding. This feels like you were looking for an excuse to leave." I read that message 3 times trying to process it. Somehow, in the span of 4 days, "Leave if you're going to be jealous" had become, "I never asked you to leave," and my taking her at her word had become me looking for an excuse. That's when I decided to do something I should have done months ago. I actually looked at her social media from the Vegas trip. What I found there made everything crystal clear. She'd posted stories throughout the weekend that she clearly forgot I could see. Group shots at restaurants where she was sitting next to Trevor, holding his arm. Pictures from some rooftop bar where she was wearing his jacket. Videos of them dancing together at a club while Marcus filmed. But the one that really got me was a post from their hotel pool. She was sitting in a lounge chair between Trevor and Marcus, and the caption read, "When your Vegas boyfriends know how to treat a girl right, #LivingBestLife, no regrets, Vegas boyfriends, plural." I screenshot that before she could delete it and sent it to Danny. His response was immediate. "Dude, she's been planning this exit strategy for months. You just beat her to the punch." That evening, she called me from the apartment. "For the first time in days," I answered. "Cole, we need to talk. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. There's nothing to talk about. You made it clear what you wanted. I never wanted you to leave. I wanted you to trust me." "Trust you to what? Go to Vegas with guys you're calling your boyfriends on social media?" Silence. Then, "You've been stalking my Instagram?" "I've been looking at public posts from my girlfriend's vacation." "That's not stalking. It was a joke, Cole. You're taking everything out of context. The context is that you told me to leave if I was going to be jealous, and when I took your advice, you decided that was the wrong choice. You can't have it both ways. So that's it? You're just done? After 2 years? Yeah. I'm done negotiating with someone who makes me feel crazy for expecting basic respect." I hung up and blocked her number. Danny came home later that night with beers and takeout. We sat on his couch watching ESPN, and he said something that really stuck with me. "You know what the difference is between a reasonable person and a manipulative one? A reasonable person doesn't make you feel guilty for having feelings. They work with you to find solutions. A manipulative person makes your feelings the problem." He was right. For months, I'd been so focused on not being controlling that I'd completely lost sight of what was actually reasonable to expect from a partner. Transparency about who you're traveling with. Basic consideration for your partner's feelings. Not posting pictures with other guys using relationship language while you're supposedly committed to someone else. These aren't controlling demands. They're baseline expectations for any functional relationship. The crazy part is that I feel more like myself than I have in months. Not angry, not bitter, just clear. Like I've been trying to solve a puzzle with pieces that were never going to fit, and I finally stopped forcing them. Tomorrow I'm looking at apartments. Danny's been great about letting me crash here, but I'm ready to build something new instead of hiding from something old. Update 2. It's been 3 months since I moved out after Alexis told me to leave if I was going to be jealous about her Vegas trip with gym friends. A lot has happened, and I wanted to update because this situation taught me something important about manipulation that I think other people might need to hear. First, the practical stuff. I got my own place, a 1-bedroom apartment about 15 minutes from work. It's smaller than what Alexis and I had together, but it's mine, and I actually love coming home now instead of dreading whatever mood I might walk into. Work's been good. My boss promoted me to senior project manager last month, partly because my focus has been better without all the relationship drama constantly in the background. Turns out when you're not spending mental energy analyzing every text message and conversation for hidden meanings, you can actually concentrate on other things. But the real update is about Alexis's campaign to get me back, because that's what it's been, a full campaign with multiple strategies, shifting tactics, and a level of persistence that would be impressive if it weren't so exhausting. It started about 2 weeks after I blocked her number. She began reaching out through other people, friends, co-workers. Even my mom somehow got a message from her saying she was concerned about my well-being and that I was going through something difficult. When that didn't work, she shifted to showing up places. My gym, my favorite coffee shop, the bar where Danny and I sometimes grab drinks after work. Not stalking exactly, but definitely making sure I'd see her around. Always looking like she was casually there. Always with this hurt expression like she couldn't understand why I was being so cold. The breakthrough came about 6 weeks ago when Trevor, one of the Vegas boyfriends, messaged me on LinkedIn of all places. The message was short but revealing. "Hey man, I probably shouldn't be reaching out, but I wanted you to know that Alexis told everyone at the gym that you were abusive and controlling, and that she was planning to leave you anyway. Just thought you should know what story is going around. For what it's worth, based on how she acted in Vegas, I don't think you're the problem. That message answered a lot of questions I'd been having about why our mutual friends had been acting weird around me, why some people seemed to be avoiding me entirely. I asked Trevor if he'd be willing to tell me more about what happened in Vegas, and what he told me was both better and worse than I'd imagined. According to Trevor, Alexis had been talking about me for months before the trip, painting this picture of a jealous, controlling boyfriend who monitored her friendships and made her feel guilty for having a social life. She'd told the gym group that she was basically trapped with someone who didn't understand her need for independence. The Vegas trip had been her idea from the beginning, specifically including guys, specifically designed to provoke a reaction from me. She wanted either for me to fight for her, prove my love by becoming the jealous boyfriend she was already describing to everyone, or to give her ammunition to justify leaving by being controlling about the trip. What she hadn't expected was for me to take her literally when she told me to leave. She spent the whole weekend complaining about how you weren't calling or texting, Trevor said. We thought it was weird that she seemed upset her boyfriend wasn't jealous about her being in Vegas with other guys. But here's the part that really got me. The gym guys hadn't been taking her seriously as a romantic option. To them, she was the girl with a boyfriend who liked to flirt and get attention, but wasn't actually available. When I disappeared from the picture, suddenly she became fair game, and that's when she realized what she'd actually given up. Trevor told me that Marcus had asked her out the week after Vegas, assuming she was single now. When she said she wasn't ready to date because she was trying to work things out with her ex, Marcus laughed and said he thought the whole point was that her ex was a controlling asshole she wanted to get away from. She couldn't explain why she wanted back with someone she'd been calling abusive for months without admitting she'd been lying, Trevor said. That conversation changed how I saw everything that had happened between us. It wasn't just about poor communication or mismatched expectations. She'd been systematically reframing my normal relationship needs as character flaws, not because she believed it, but because it gave her cover to do whatever she wanted while making me the problem. Every time I'd tried to address something that bothered me, she'd made it about my insecurity rather than her behavior. Every boundary I'd attempted to set had been reframed as controlling rather than reasonable. She'd been training me to police my own feelings so she wouldn't have to be accountable for hers. The worst part was realizing how much of myself I'd given up trying to be the perfect, non-controlling boyfriend. I'd stopped asking questions when things seemed off. I'd stopped trusting my instincts when her behavior didn't match her words. I'd convinced myself that having expectations made me toxic. Last week, she tried one more approach. She showed up at my apartment with a handwritten letter talking about how much she'd grown since we broke up, how she'd been in therapy working on her communication issues, how she realized now that I'd been trying to love her and she'd been too immature to see it. The letter was 8 pages long and detailed all the ways she'd changed, all the insights she'd gained about herself, all the reasons we should try again. It was thoughtful and well written, and probably took hours to compose. I read the whole thing, and then I threw it away. Not because I was angry, I'm not angry anymore, but because someone who spends months telling mutual friends you're abusive, who orchestrates situations designed to make you look controlling, who uses therapy language to manipulate your emotions, doesn't get to write their way back into your life with a letter about personal growth. The person who's right for me won't make me question my sanity for having normal relationship expectations. They won't reframe my feelings as character defects. They won't make me choose between trusting them and trusting myself. I know this now because I've been seeing someone new for the past month, Emma, who teaches yoga and works as a freelance graphic designer. We met at the coffee shop Alexis used to ambush me at, which feels like some kind of cosmic joke. Emma and I were talking about past relationships on our second date, and I told her about the whole Vegas situation. When I got to the part about being called controlling for wanting transparency about travel plans, she looked at me like I'd said something strange. "That's not controlling," she said. "That's just basic consideration. Why wouldn't someone tell their partner who they're traveling with?" Such a simple response, but it confirmed what I'd finally learned. The right person doesn't make you feel crazy for having reasonable expectations. They just meet them without making it a negotiation about your character. I don't know if Emma and I will work out long term, but I know I'll never again apologize for expecting basic respect from someone who claims to love me. Final update. I'm writing this exactly 1 year after I moved out of the apartment I shared with Alexis following her ultimatum about being jealous over her Vegas trip. A lot has changed, and I wanted to close out this whole chapter properly because something happened last month that put everything into perspective. First, the good news. Life is genuinely great now. Emma and I have been together for 9 months, and we moved in together 3 months ago. She's nothing like what I thought I wanted, but everything I actually needed. We communicate like adults. We trust each other without having to prove it constantly, and I never feel like I'm walking on eggshells or second-guessing normal relationship expectations. I got another promotion at work, regional project manager now, which means I'm overseeing multiple job sites and finally making the kind of money I'd been working toward for years. Danny and I started a side business doing residential electrical work on weekends, and that's taking off beyond what we expected. But the main reason I'm posting this update is because of what happened at our housewarming party last month. Emma and I bought a house. Nothing fancy, but a 3-bedroom place with a garage for my workshop and a garden for her yoga practice. We threw a party to celebrate, invited about 30 people including work friends, some of Emma's yoga community, and a bunch of the guys from my construction crew. We were about 2 hours into the party when Alexis showed up. Not invited, obviously. Apparently, one of Emma's friends had posted about the party on social media, and Alexis had figured out the address from the background of some photos. She just walked into our backyard like she belonged there. I was in the kitchen getting more beer when Danny came in with this "oh shit" expression. "Cole, your ex is here." My first instinct was anger. What kind of person crashes their ex's housewarming party a year later? But when I walked outside and saw her, what I felt instead was nothing. Not anger, not awkwardness, just complete indifference. She looked like she was expecting a big dramatic scene, dressed up, clearly nervous but trying to play it off like she was casually in the neighborhood. Several people at the party recognized her from when we were together, so there was definitely some tension. I walked over to where she was standing near the back fence, trying to look casual while obviously scanning for Emma. "Alexis, Cole, I saw the posts about your party. The house looks amazing. Thanks. What are you doing here? I wanted to congratulate you, and to meet." She gestured vaguely toward the house. "Your girlfriend?" Emma was inside talking to some friends, completely unaware of the drama unfolding in the backyard. I could have made this into a whole thing, told Alexis to leave, made a scene, let everyone know she was there uninvited. Instead, I did something that clearly wasn't what she was expecting. "Emma, come meet someone," I called toward the house. Emma came over with that easy smile she always has, and I put my arm around her waist. "This is Alexis, someone I used to know." "Alexis, this is Emma. Someone I used to know. Not my ex-girlfriend, not someone important from my past, just someone I used to know." Emma, being the gracious person she is, shook Alexis's hand and said something polite about "nice to meet you." Alexis looked stunned. Clearly, she'd been expecting jealousy, possessiveness, some kind of territorial response. "How long have you two been together?" Alexis asked, and there was something desperate in her voice. 9 months, Emma said. "Cole, didn't you say you used to live around here? Are you from the neighborhood too?" And that's when I realized what was happening. Alexis had come expecting to disrupt something, to create drama, to matter in some way. She was still fighting a war I'd stopped participating in a year ago. "Yeah, I used to live nearby," Alexis said, "before I moved across town." "That's nice," Emma said with genuine friendliness. "Well, I should get back to our friends. It was good meeting you." And she kissed my cheek and walked back inside, completely unbothered because why would she be bothered? From her perspective, she'd just met some random person from my neighborhood. Alexis stood there for a moment, and I could see her processing that the woman I'd been living with for months wasn't threatened by her, wasn't jealous, didn't see her as competition, because to Emma, she wasn't any of those things. She was just some woman who'd shown up uninvited to our party. "You seem happy," Alexis said finally. "I am. I've been thinking about what happened between us, about what I said that night before Vegas." "Okay. I didn't mean for you to actually leave. I know." She waited for me to say more, maybe to ask about what she'd learned, or how she'd grown, or whether we could talk sometime. When I didn't, she tried again. "I made mistakes, Cole. I was immature about a lot of things." We all make mistakes. Another pause. She was clearly expecting this to turn into a conversation about us, about what went wrong, about whether there was any possibility of reconciliation. When it became obvious that wasn't happening, she finally said goodbye and left. Danny found me a few minutes later. How did that go? Fine. She's not my problem anymore. Good man. That's growth. The strangest part was that after she left, the party just continued like nothing had happened. Emma asked who that was. I gave her the basic facts. Someone I dated for 2 years. It ended badly. She'd shown up uninvited. Emma nodded and said something like, "That's weird, but whatever." And we moved on to other topics. No drama, no jealousy, no long conversation about my past relationships. Just normal human understanding that sometimes weird things happen, and you deal with them and move forward.